Thus I perish in amazement at the ruthless curve of your delicate hip. Thus I perish in amazement at the suggestion of your wrists. Thus I perish in amazement and am recreated by the aloe of your eyes. Thus I perish in amazement in your tongue's candied skull. Thus I perish in amazement, drowning beneath your flowering feet. Thus I perish in amazement and am preserved in the formaldehyde of your impossible breast. Thus I perish in amazement, salted in your blood and consumed with milk. Thus I perish in amazement, dashed to shreds on the glimmering bergs of your teeth. Thus I perish in amazement like a flame devoted. Thus I perish in amazement in the thundering honey of your wake. Thus I perish in amazement and sink fathomlessly down with all your masks. Thus I perish in amazement and am born into your favorite laughter. Thus I perish in amazement, my bones liberated by your wolves. Thus I perish in amazement, pinned to the axis of your innumerable eye. Thus I perish in amazement at the matrix of all possible narratives. Thus I perish in amazement in the mushroom of your every deadly atom. Thus I perish in amazement, a sobbing angel hung in a tree. Thus I perish in amazement, an azure column touching the alabaster sky. Thus I perish in amazement, plucked like a berry from your trellis of blood. Thus I perish in amazement in the ribbed lightning of the next great ice age. Thus I perish in amazement, am magma. Thus I perish in amazement, am lice. Thus I perish in amazement as the flowers sway in myriad lysergic awe. Thus I perish in amazement as you wasp the abyss between my ribs. Thus I perish in amazement and am made whole by the white mud of your ambivalence. Thus I perish in amazement, eating the poison from your reverential sleep. Thus I perish in amazement, drowning in the black orchard of your hair. Thus I perish in amazement, with wings, with planets, with fingers. Thus I perish in amazement at the dawn of your surrendered eye breaking on its lid's horizon. Thus I perish in amazement, living for centuries on the freckled hours of your neck. Thus I perish in amazement, living for centuries on the freckled hours of your neck. Thus I perish in amazement at the glorious gesture of your abdomen rising to meet mine. Thus I perish in amazement, alone in my aberration, and still I have not ceased to weep. Thus I perish in amazement, within the pure lie of mystery we walk. Thus I perish in amazement, my perfect veins crumbling to dust on your fingers' perfect tips. Thus I perish in amazement, the swishing sound, and that is enough. Thus I perish in amazement, this rose bursting delicately out then rising. Thus I perish in amazement, a half-open door in a glass of darkness. Thus I perish in amazement, alone in my aberrations. Thus I perish in amazement in the gruesomeness of your embrace which no one can take me from. Thus I perish in amazement amid the uncurling tides of your wandering. Thus I perish in amazement and return to rest my head on your immortal thigh. Thus I perish in amazement, broken by the enormity of a future apart. Thus I perish in amazement and become the sapling tree that centuries from now still bends in the wind of your uncertain longing. Thus I perish in amazement, thus I perish in amazement, thus I perish, thus I perish, thus I perish, still I have not yet ceased to perish.